Hi everybody, today you're going to learn about addition and subtraction of decimals. Let's see some examples. We'll start with a simple example. 0.4 plus 0.1. First of all, you put the two numbers, two decimals, one below the other, and you align the decimal point. That means you put the decimal point of the first one right above the second one. And then you add the digits as if they are regular numbers and not decimals. So 4 plus 1 is 5. Then you put the decimal point here, and then 0 plus 0 is 0. So 0.4 plus 0.1 is 0.5. And if you want to check yourself whether you are right or wrong, you perform the opposite operation. So instead of plus, instead of adding, you subtract. And you subtract the result, the sum, and the number that you added. So 0.5 minus 0.1. If this gives us 0.4, we'll know that we were right. Same goes here. You put the decimal point of the first one above the decimal point of the second one. You align them. And then you subtract them as if they are regular numbers and not decimals. Regular whole numbers, I mean. So 5 minus 1 is 4. You put the decimal point, and 0 minus 0 is 0. And we got 0.4, which means we were right. Now let's subtract the same numbers. So 0.4 minus 0.1. So we align the two numbers. We put the decimal point of the first one above the decimal point of the second one. And we subtract them as if they are whole numbers and not decimals. So 4 minus 1 is 3. You put the decimal point here. And then 0 minus 0 is 0. Now, in order to check ourselves, we need to perform the opposite operation. So instead of subtraction, we'll perform addition. So we'll add 0.3 and 0.1. And if we get 0.4, that means we are right. Again, put them like this, we align them. Now 3 plus 1 is 4 and decimal point, and 0 plus 0 is 0. So 0.4 equals 0.3 plus 0.1, which is where we came from, so we were right again. Now let's see more advanced examples. 1.58 plus 0.37. Again, we align the numbers. That means put the decimal points of the first one above the second one and add it as if they are whole numbers. So 8 plus 7 is 15, so we write 5 here and we carry over the 1 here. Now 1 plus 5 is 6 plus 3 is 9. Put the decimal point. Now 1 plus 0 is 1. So 1.58 plus 0.37 is 1.95. And in order to make sure we are right, we perform the opposite operation. So 1.95 minus 0.37. So we cannot subtract 7 from 5. So the 5 borrows 10 from that digit next to it, which is 9 in this case. The 9 becomes an 8. It reduces, we reduce 1 from the 9, it becomes an 8. And it gives of 10 to the 5. So we add 10 to 5 and we get 15. Now we subtract it as usual. 15 minus 7 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5, put the decimal point, and now 1 minus 0 is 1. And we got the same number that we came from, which means we are right. Now let's perform the subtraction. So again, we align the numbers and subtract them as if they are regular whole numbers. So 8 minus 7 is 1, 5 minus 3 is 2, put the decimal point, 1 minus 0 is 1. And in order to check it, we perform the opposite operation as usual. So 1.21 plus 0.37. If we get 1.58, we'll know that we are right. So 1 plus 7 is 8, 2 plus 3 is 5, put the decimal point, and 1 plus 0 is 1. And we got 1.58, which means we are right. Let's see more examples. Oh, what do we do here? 3.06 plus 0.2815. First of all, we align the numbers. We put the decimal point of the first one right above the decimal point of the second one. But we have no digits here. So when we have this case, it's allowed to add as many zeros as you want. You don't change the value of the number by adding zeros in its end after the decimal point. So after the most significant digit here, which is 6, let's go back one step. After the most significant digit, which is after the decimal point, you can add as many zeros as you want. You cannot add zeros before the 6 here, but you can add as many zeros here. If you added them here before the 6, it would change the value of the number. You cannot do that. It's not allowed. But you can add as many zeros here. So you add the number of zeros which are missing in order for the numbers to be of the same digit size. And now you add them as usual. 0 plus 5 is 5. 0 plus 1 is 1. 6 plus 8 is 14. You write 4 here. You carry over 1. And 1 plus 2 is 3. And you put the decimal point here. And 3 plus 0 is 3. So 3.06 plus 0.2815 is 3.3415. Now let's perform the opposite. As usual, align them. 5 minus 5 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. 4 minus 8, we cannot do that. We need to borrow. So the 3 becomes 2 and it adds 10 to the 4, which becomes 14. Now 14 minus 8 is 6. And 2 minus 2 is 0. And we put the decimal point. And 3 minus 0 is 3, which is exactly where we came from, 3.06. We were right again. Now let's see the subtraction. Again, we align the numbers and we have missing spaces here, missing digits. So we add zeros so that these two numbers will have the same number of digits. And now we subtract them. However, we have a problem here. 0 minus 5, we cannot do that, so we need to borrow. But a 0, the second 0, cannot give you anything because it's a 0, so it needs to borrow from the 6. The 6 becomes 5, it gives it a 10 to the 0. But this 0, the second one, needs to give this one something, so it becomes a 9 by itself, and then the first one becomes 10. So we add 0 plus 10, it is 10. Now 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 1 is 8. And again, we need to borrow because 5 is smaller than 8. So we need to borrow from the 0, but the 0 cannot give you anything because it's a 0, so it needs to borrow from the whole number, which becomes 2, and it gives 10. But this 0 needs to give something to the 5 that we had here. So the 10 here becomes a 9, and it gives a 10 to the 5, adds a 10 to the 5, which becomes 15. Now 15 minus 8 is 7. 9 minus 2 is 7. Decimal point, and 2 minus 0 is 2. Now let's check ourselves with addition. And if we get to 3.06, that means we were right. 5 plus 5 is 0, and we carry over 1. Now 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 1 is 10, put a 0, and carry over another one. And 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 8 is 16. We write 6 and carry over 1. Now 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 2 is 10. So we write 0 and we carry over the decimal point and carry over 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, which is exactly what we started from, 3.06. We were right again. Let's see another example. 12.8 plus 1.86. Again, please note that we are again aligning the numbers. We need to align the numbers, put the decimal points of both of them right above each other. Please note that we must align the numbers. So we put the decimal points of the first number right above the decimal point of the lower number. And again, they don't have the same number of digits after the decimal point, so we need to add a 0 here as well. Note that they don't have the same number of digits altogether. Purpose is to make sure that the two numbers that we add or subtract have the same number of digits after the decimal point. So without it, the first number has only one digit, which is 8. And this one has two digits, 8 and 6. We want to make sure that they have the same number of digits after the decimal point. So we must add zeros here. In this case, only 1 0. And now we add it as usual. 0 plus 6 is 6. 8 plus 8 is 16. We write 6 and we carry over 1. 1 plus 2. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. Obviously, decimal point here. And 1 plus nothing, which is 0, is 1. So we get 14. Let's check ourselves. 14.66 minus 1.86. If we get 12.8, that means we were right. 6 minus 6 is 0. We cannot subtract 8 from 6 because 6 is smaller, so we need to borrow. So it needs to borrow from the 4, which becomes 3, and it adds 10 to the 6, and it becomes 16. Now 16 minus 8 is 8. Decimal point. 3 minus 1 is 2, and 1 minus nothing is 1. And we get 12.8, which is what we started from. That means we are right again. Now let's have subtraction again. We align the numbers, make sure they have the same number of digits after the decimal point. In this case, we need to add a 0 and subtract it as usual. Again, we cannot subtract 6 from 0, so we need to borrow. So the 8 becomes 7, and we add 10 to the 0, and it becomes 10. So 10 minus 6 is 4. 7, we cannot subtract 8 from 7, so we need to borrow. The 2 becomes 1. We always borrow from the next digit, the one on the left. So the 2 becomes 1, and we add 10 to 7, which becomes 17. 17 minus 8 is 9. Decimal point, 1 minus 1 is 0, and 1 minus nothing is 1. Let's check ourselves. 4 plus 6 is 10. We write 0, carry over 1, and we get 1 plus 9, which is 10, plus 8 is 18. We write 8 and carry over 1. After adding the decimal point here, 1 plus 0 plus 1 is 2, and 1 plus nothing is 1. And we got 12.8, which is what we started from. That means we are right again. And another example, 17 plus 1.86. So 17, without any decimal point, that means it's 17.0. You can add as many zeros as you want in this case. And again, I'm reminding you that we need to make sure that the two numbers that we add or subtract must have the same number of digits after the decimal point. So in this case, we add the decimal point to 17. 17 or 17.00 are the same value. And now we add it as usual. 0 plus 6 is 6, 0 plus 8 is 8, right? The decimal point, 7 plus 1 is 8, and we get 18. Check ourselves. 6 minus 6 is 0, 8 minus 8 is 0, decimal point, 8 minus 1 is 7, and 1 minus nothing is 1. We got 17, which is the same number that we started with. That means we are right. And now subtract. Again, we align the numbers with the decimal point, add the zeros that are missing so that the two numbers will have the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point, and subtract it as usual. We cannot subtract 6 from 0, so we need to borrow, but this one is a 0. It cannot give us anything, so it needs to borrow from the 7, which becomes a 6, and it adds 10 to this 0. This 0 has to give something to this 0, so this 10 becomes a 9. And now we add 10 to the first 0 here, and we can now subtract as usual. 10 minus 6 is 4, 9 minus 8 is 1, put the decimal point, 6 minus 1 is 5, and 1 minus nothing is 1. 15.14. That is the result. Now we need to perform the opposite operation to check. 4 plus 6 is 10, write 0, and we carry over 1. 1 plus 1 plus 8 is 10. We write 0. We write a 0 and carry over 1. Now 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And 1 plus nothing is 1. And we got 17, which is where we came from, which means we are right again. And this is it. I hope you liked it. If you did, please click on like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to get more videos. Bye bye.